Hey, Ronnie Jr.
Right now, I mean, I've been fortunate that my company has grown to the point where we are financially stable, and then we get to hire people, and we get to say no to a lot of people without having repercussions to our bottom line. You
Yeah.
know, and then but at the same time, I still have done stuff for cheap,
Yeah.
but those are more strategic, and even not either they're strategic or either they're from the heart. You know what I mean? If it's a
Yes.
project that I think has some value, then I'll be like, yeah, sure, I'll do it for cheap, because it aligns with my feelings, or it aligns with my thing, and I look at it more as a charity than anything else. You know what I mean?
Let's talk about
Yeah.
some of the super fun stuff that you guys have done, and you could even allude to some of the gearhead type things,
Yeah.
because I don't know much about equipment, but I do know that I've seen some recent stuff you guys have done. Big things. The one that really sticks out most, I guess, is all the complexities and the moving parts. That was the gentleman who walked over hot lava
Yeah.
in Nicaragua. And you guys, what was the task, and how did you do it?
The task was very straightforward. So the project was it was broadcasted on the ABC prime time. The project was Nick Wallenda Volcano Life. That was the title of the project. And if you're not familiar with Nick Wallenda is one of those. He is
Tightrope walker.
he's a tightrope walker, but more than that is like that's his life. He comes from a generational family that's done that for generations and generations. Like his grandfather died from falling from a tightrope in an event in Puerto Rico.
Mm.
His grandfather did it, his great grandfather did it, his father did it, his whole family does it. So they're a circus family, but
Yeah,
that's the act that they do,
that's how
right?
they teach their kids how to walk when they grow
Exactly, I think so.
up. You
And
want
then
shoes? No, take it to the
no,
road. Yeah, got it.
exactly. And then but I think Nick has been very smart about the changing of culture, because like circus are not as popular, I will say, as they once were. Because entertainment has changed. There's a lot of more sources of entertainment that back in the day, when going to the circus was a thing. You
Mm.
know what I mean? And so he's been very smart about making this very death defying stunts, and making them into a prime time event that ABC will broadcast.
Right.
So we're talking like multi-million dollar budget event, where he's walked Niagara Falls, he's walked the Grand Canyon, he's walked Chicago, like the skyscrapers, he's walked Times Square. So every time he just ups the ante, because that's his gig.
Hmm.
That's his job, is to the following has to be bigger, has to be more dangerous, has to be everything bigger. And so we were lucky enough that we got the call to be part of this new death defying project, which was him, Nick Wallenda, walking a tightrope that was going across this active volcano in Nicaragua. So this guy literally walked a tightrope over a hot pool of lava in Nicaragua. So us as a drone company, we were tasked with the job of capturing this record-breaking event and this record-breaking action, aerially with our drones. We've been doing this for many years. We've done a lot of movies, we've done a lot of TV shows, but this one in particular was very special to me, in particular, as the head of the company, because it required a lot more logistics in our end.
Mm.
Because when we do a TV show, when we do a movie, it's like everything. Everything is, you know, you can rehearse, you can do it all over again. If you
Yeah,
miss the
back to
shot,
one.
you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
back to one, and then it's a lot of that stuff. There's a lot more
yeah.
things that come into play.
Right.
But
If Nick goes back to one, he might fall in the lava. So you know
exactly,
we gotta make sure the drone team is on point.
exactly. But not only that, but it was live.
Yeah,
So
it
this
was it
wasn't
was ABC had ran like a Dateline special. Chris Harrison was the host, and I'm only mentioning that,
yes.
Pablo, to add to what I would assume is not pressure, but the seriousness of like ABC was putting like their best host on the project. I mean, Chris
Yeah.
Harrison is like the
I mean,
backbone.
this is a 2 hour primetime slot.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, for
Well,
people that, if for the viewers that might not be particularly they might not understand the importance of what this is, but a primetime slot on network, it's basically if your show runs anywhere from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock, that is basically the 2 hour span where advertising is at its peak.
mm,
So like networks make it a point to put the best programming in that 2 hour span. You know what I mean? Which is why you have your best shows, your best sitcoms, your best everything in that 2 hour span, and any network from CBS to
oh yeah.
NBC to Fox to
Oh no,
whatever.
ABC did that back when TGIF Friday. Like, you know,
Yeah,
everyone knows 8 to 10 is the big thing, and like I said, I just wondered how much that added pressure to your guys' unit, and how many people did you have assemble with the Ariel
for
unit?
sure. The pressure, it's big because it's live. That's the thing. Live adds an entire different dimension to our job, because it's live. There's no room for mistakes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If your shot, we're talking about, this is 16 cameras on this project, right? So obviously the public only sees one, maybe two cameras if they do a split screen, one or maybe two cameras out of 16. But if you happen to be the one camera that's live, any mistakes, you're gonna have millions of people watch it.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So the added pressure on the operators, it's to 11, because you know you're going live, and now you're like, every little thing, especially for us, like we use these remotes with these tiny little sticks, the maneuver the camera, the maneuver the drone, is like, if you sneeze at that particular moment, and then the drone, like
Yeah.
millions of people will see that mistake. You
And
know what I mean?
I feel
So it
like
enhances everything.
I feel like for this project versus like you had said, Nick also did tightrope across the one of the big Chicago
Mm-hmm.
skyscrapers. What's different here is there's no surfaces really. You know, there's no land. So
Yeah.
you guys were more two things that seem interesting or tough. There's no your drone. The drone aerial unit is much more important here because there's other cameras, of course, that are stabilized, but there's not a lot of ways to capture these great
Yeah.
visuals. And then secondly, I don't know again as much about this aside from what I hear from you, but what is that looking like with how many drones do you have out at one time? And you're talking
Yeah.
about a 2-hour show, but that's not to say the drone can run for 2 hours. You know.
Exactly. That was the that was actually the primary, and that's a great question. That was actually the primary concern for us, because the drones have a limited flight time, which is the unit that we use in this show. We're talking about 15 to 20 minutes of runtime. Now we're looking at a 2 hour event. You know what I mean? Where everything's live. So the solution that we came up with was, we production wanted to have two drones at all times in the air. So we had four teams ready to go for 2 hours. And the way that we did it was that we had two drones in the air. They both took off before the show started, with a certain amount of time in between. So
Mhm.
when the first drone was depleting the battery, there was a third drone that took off, took its place, And then, so control room in production will switch the camera to the third drone. The second drone will come back to base, switch the battery, wait, and then when the second drone was ready to come home, same thing, it will replace. And then it was
And
almost
you're
like a revolving door of drones in the air. And then it seems simple when I say it, but it's a lot more complicated when you have a guy walking a tightrope with a flying machine about 30, 40 feet away that can easily hit him and then potentially cause death.
oh,
And then having,
don't say it
three
like
at a time moving in this
yeah,
very tight space
yeah.
within while trying to keep a workable shot for the director of the show. So having
Because
to
you have to
manage all of that, it was quite challenging.
because you have to communicate with the team, not your team per se,
Mhm.
who is replacing the batteries and bringing
I
the,
had to. I had to communicate. I was
because
basically coordinated
it's two
everything.
bits of communication, right? Is it's
Yes.
your
I was
let's go with
communicating.
Xizmo.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm saying it's going to Xizmo to make sure our batteries and all that, if I'm
Hmm.
understanding correctly. But then it's also on this side to keep what it was at the control room that you're letting them
The
know.
director, yeah, the
I'll bring in
director.
this one. Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
again, live with hot lava.
Yeah, exactly. And it's one of those
It
things.
doesn't sound that easy. No, no, no.
No, it's not easy, and it's mentally exhausting because if you think about it, uh, I was assigned the task of basically choreographing or like just managing this whole enterprise, and then in my case, I had like two headsets, one where I can listen to every single member of my team, which it's great, but at the same time I'm also listening to them communicating with their counterparts, you know
Mm.
what I mean, the pilots communicating with their cameras. So it's a lot of chit chat of what they're doing in my ear. So it's almost like having a radio constantly changing frequencies in one ear, and
Yeah.
then having the boss, the director, in my other ear telling me, hey, I need you to do this shot, and then me having to communicate that now to one of my teams, and then, oh, do this, and it's a lot of voices in my head, and having to filter that out and then communicate what needs to be communicated. I think that was the most challenging part of it all. Uh, but I think I was lucky I chose the right people to do this with, and then we definitely we pull it off. Let's
The
that's the end of the story, is we pull it off.
it's I mean, like I said, I supported the project because I of course knew you guys were taking on that project. So I supported it though as a fan, as a consumer, and threw it on the DVR, and I was like, oh, let me watch this. Or, no, I didn't even watch
Yeah.
DVR. I think I watched it live because at least broadcasted live. But then when I hear all the nuances of like stuff that we as the viewer we take for granted, I think that has to be definitely the hardest part. Was you have this team over here, and those walkies get chattery, but then this team, those walkies also get chattery, the
Yeah.
control room rather. And then to really be the instrumental person. What was it like as far as your team? Did you have your team? I don't know how big it usually runs, but how many more bodies did you have with you to
Well,
accomplish
uh,
this?
a normal team is 3 people. I had 9 people on this job.
Okay.
So I had
Wow.
9 people to deal with, and I mean 8, because 9 with me included. So I had 8 people to deal with, 8 people to communicate with, control, direct. So it got a little bit challenging.
Yeah.
There was a big learning curve, because I don't think this is something that it has been done before, a multi-drone live event.
Mm.
So there was a learning curve about the logistics of how to make this happen. The plan that I had in my mind going in changed 180 degrees by the time we actually went live. So during that transition of changing the plan and seeing what works and what didn't, and that sort of thing, I did lose my cool a few times, where I had to yell a little bit to some of my people. But it's one of those things when you have to be on top of a team. You have to also recognize when you do the wrong thing. You know what I mean, and keep the morale high. So there was a lot of apologizing from my part to my people. But that's also the other thing is that you have to also find the people that can handle the stress,
Mm-hmm.
that are willing to not take things personally. And it's
It's
a
changing.
delicate dance, and not many people know how to navigate. But but I think it comes with experience, it comes with time, it comes with just being in the mix long enough.